So guys, we are looking at this very topic today, top 5 Vercel deployment errors and how to fix them, whether you are building with React, Nextjs, Supabase or Firebase for your database or backend. We are going to walk you through 5 most common deployment errors developers face when deploying React, Nextjs as well as Super and Firebase projects to Vercel. So that is what we are going to be looking at today. So just sit right there as we get started with it. But before I proceed, please like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment to encourage us. So as you can see, there are a lot of build errors while you try to deploy to Vercel. So we are going to be taking step-by-step approach on how to identify as well as fix some of these errors while you are working on your code. So first, let's take them one after the other. So what is the first error we are going to look at? First, we are going to be looking at missing or misconfigured environment variable. So what is this about? That error is about setting the environment variable locally but not in Vercel. First, I will show you what exactly I'm talking about so that you can get the concept, and I will go to Vercel to check it out. So if you are working on your project and you can see this is .env .local file. It's supposed to be .env, but that is my environment variable, so let me just use this. Okay, so you can see that these are the environment variable for this project. Okay, this is the next public Supabase URL which you are going to get from the Supabase dashboard, because this is a Supabase project, and you are going to copy that and paste that here. So in most cases, if you do not paste that, you are going to get this particular error we are talking about, missing or misconfigured environment variable. And if you are using an API, your API key also have to be added on this part. So I believe you understand that concept. Your API key will have to be added here. All right, you have to add that API key here. So again, I also want you to understand that. Let's go to Vercel and let me show you. Before then, you need to create your API key in whatever you can use. If you are using your API, this is for group API. Okay, so this is supposed to be your API key. If you want to create a new one, you can create a new API key here, and let me just do my key. You could just create your API key. Okay, so once you do that, you are going to verify that API. So this is just going to roll and you do that. API key is being created, and in no time we are going to have that. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you. So this is an API key. So what you just need to do is you copy it, and you are going to use that right in the project. If you are building that, you ensure that your environment, you are going to add that to your env local, and you go to your Vercel and you are going to add that to your environment variable too. Okay, so you are supposed to add that to, okay, that is supposed to be for Grok. Okay, so you just write Grok API and you are going to add that. Okay, so these ones have been added for this project. I have some keys here already, so that is not what I want to do. So if you want to ensure that the environment variable is correctly and properly added, so go to your Vercel dashboard. As you can see, they go to settings. So when you are in settings, scroll down to environment variables. So you are supposed to add those API keys here. All right, this one is for Grok, as you can see, and this is an image service ID. Then this one is image template ID. So all of the environment variables we are supposed to add the keys, you are supposed to add them here. This is the name and this is the value. All right, you are supposed to add all your variables. So ensure you do that to resolve the first error which we talked about. So if you are done with that, then if it's still giving you error, then go back to your VS Code, and what you want to do on your terminal, ensure to further debug that error, run this command on your terminal, Vercel env pull. Okay, so what this command does is that it's going to sync what you have on the Vercel dashboard with what you have locally so that they become the same. So these are the debugging steps you use to fix that first error. All right, so I believe that is clear. So now let's look at the second error which you can likely get. What is that? That is unsupported Node.js version. Okay, that is a probable error which you can get with Vercel where you are working with Vercel. So what causes it? At this point, Vercel can default to its own Node.js version. All right, and if you did specify one for your project, or if your project uses a newer ECMAScript feature or Firebase SDK version that require a newer Node version, the build can fail at that point when you are trying to build your project. So at this point, build log shows syntax error. So it's going to show syntax error for that build, and it's going to be unexpected to key or unsupported engine error. So how do you resolve this error? One of the ways you resolve this error is you can go to your package.json file. So you can locate your node.js to check the version of node you use. You can specify that version of node. So just go to that the script, and what you want to do is you can add that engine to that point. So what you want to add is you want to add, okay, so you put a column, so you add node and the version you want to use. So I'm going to add that node and the version of node we intend to use. At this point, it is version 80 and above. Okay, so choose the version. It can be 18.2, 18.1, whatever, or you can use version 20. All right, so you specify the version of node you want to use. To is going to default to that version. Okay, and is going to resolve that error you are experiencing at that point in time. So understand that Vercel supports Node 18 as well as Node version 80 as well as 20. So once you do that, you should redeploy your project. Okay, either yes, you can git add and push again so that everything push. Then you can always go back here to Vercel and go back and redeploy your project. When you are done with that, you can go to deployment and try to redeploy the project you are working on. That should be under overview, I think. All right, so you can choose the particular one that failed and you can redeploy. As you can see here, you can redeploy. So back, this is going to take us to the third error, which is module not found or case sensitivity issue. So by module not found, we are talking about a case where the imported module cannot be found, and case sensitivity just talk about where there's an uppercase lowercase mismatch. You define name is an uppercase or lowercase, but the import is carrying a different case from what you have. So we are going to look at Like I said, later on we'll try to resolve what we have here, some of these errors. And so let me show you what I mean. So if you come to this project I have here, you can see that I have in this layout.js file, I'm making some import, and in the first one I'm importing from component, I'm importing the header file. So if you can see, if I try to use a lowercase h here, then that error might likely come up, because if you go to component by the left hand side here, if you go to component and we go to the file, as you can see, this file header.js here, right here by my left hand side here, is named with a uppercase letter, so it has to match with this import. So it has to be an uppercase. Okay, so it has to be an uppercase in this file too. So if that happens, then there will be a match. So just the same as you have with all these other ones here. Okay, so there have to be a match for that to be compatible with the other. So if you also come here, there is also an issue of module not found in one of these errors I have here. Okay, cannot find module creator. So I battled with this challenge, but at the end of the day I had to install creators, okay, in the project. I have to install the correct version. If I go to my package.json file, you can see some of the installations I made, if I'm able to locate that quickly. Okay, so right here, so as you can see, later on I had to install the right version of Critters for it to work with the project. As you can see, I have Critters rightly installed here. Okay, so if this module is not installed, then there will be an error in the deployment process. So you have to take note of that to avoid that. So if there's a pro debugging tool that comes with this module not found issue, if you keep battling it, then you can go to your terminal and you want to run, if there is no case insensitivity problem, then you can go to your terminal and try to run git config core.ignore case false. Okay, so if you run this, the aim is to ignore any case, ignore the casing, so that if you are importing using a different case, it's going to work. But it's better you just fix it in the file. You know, is once you fix that in the file, is going to appropriately resolve that. It's going to resolve that. So since we can go back to the file here, so since I already imported the right critters that is giving this error, you know, pre-rendering error, cannot find module and all that. So build, so again you have to build locally, you have to run npm run build locally on the project, so that once it builds correctly, you can be rest assured that it's going to work at least to an extent in the deployment, even though you may be having one or two things to fix. So I believe that is going to build rightly. Okay, so once we are done with that, then we can come back here and redeploy this. Okay, so there is a redeploy here which you can, you know, click on at any point in time. Okay, so we are looking at large dependency stroke build timeout error when you are running your Vercel. So the build log is going to be build exceeded maximum execution time or out of memory. Okay, so when do we have this error? when you are running your build, and it's going to have a timeout. Build timeout is going to be displayed in your project. So once you have that, you know that you have that error. So again, what are some of the options to fix that error? One of such is you need to audit your dependency with nps ls, which we are going to npm ls. Ls stands for list. Then you do prod production. So you need, this is what you use to audit your dependencies. And again, you need to remove unused heavy packages. Okay, and if you're on Firebase admin SDK, you need to run only in serverless function. So if you do this, it's going to cut down on those heavy build heavy package that your project will have. So another debugging technique is for you to switch to, we are always familiar with using npm. If you are having that issue, then you need to use pnpm. Okay, pnpm is an option you can use to switch, an alternative option to npm to make it faster, make running your project faster. So how do you do that? You need to go to this file vercel.json, and what you need to add to your vercel.json file is you need to set the install command to npm install. Okay, pnpm install, sorry. Okay, so you need to add this to your Vercel script. Okay, you can come here and you need to do install command, and you need to set this install command npm install. All right, so you need to set that to pnpm install. You need to comment this or remove it if you are using pnpm. Okay, right here, that means you will not be using pnpm instead of npm. So that is one way to get that fixed. Okay, I'm not using that, so let me remove all of this. So that's another alternative to cut down on the heavy dependency, so that the error of maximum build will not come up with that. Okay, so one last error we could have is Nextjs Image Optimisation / build output misconfig. So for this error, when you are deploying your Nextjs project on Vercel uses image optimization. So if next.config is missing domain, take for instance, we always have a nextconfig.js or mjs as the case may be. So if this particular file that I just opened, if it's missing the domain setting for either whether you are using Supabase or Firebase storage URL, images would load in production. So your images will be stuck, they won't load in production. So for this, there is no particular build error in your file, as you have some build error like I've showed you earlier. There is no build error in your file. Okay, so but console showed invalid source prompt. Okay, in the console there will be an invalid source prompt that shows up in your console. So with a tag of 400 bad request. And so what do? You add a storage domain in your Nextjs file, like I pointed out. There should be a storage domain add to your Nextjs file. Okay, as you work with that, you should add a storage domain to your file. Okay, then another debugging tool or tip is always test production build locally. Okay, so as you build, you test with npm run build before you do npm run start. So you always do run build to test your production build locally, and this is going to simulate Vercel's production environment. So once you do that, it will simulate Vercel production environment. Okay, why try to deploy this again? More recent production deployment. So I have a more recent deployment for this project. So I'll have to go back to check out that recent deployment that has been created for this. So I had this error here. So when I had to deploy again, all right, as you can see here, there was a thing I had to go through. So if I open this recent deployment now, you are going to see that the error was no longer there. So this had to deploy successfully. So the deploy became successful because this is now a more recent deployment to the one we had earlier. So yeah, there was no error in the log. So if I click on that, it's going to give us there is no longer error on the site. So I believe this video helped you. Please give it a like, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to see you in the next video.